First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
This podcast is sponsored by Ramp. Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp for free. Just go to ramp.com/easy. Ramp.com/easy. RAMP.com/easy.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Over the holiday weekend, there was a lot that went on Oneida Lake, and the Oneida County Sheriff's Office Marine Patrol unit was busy, and we will now go to Oneida County Sheriff Rob Maciol, who's on the phone line with us. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, guys. How are you today?
We're doing well. Recovering from a holiday weekend. It's back to the grind, but luckily it's a short week for most.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing here, just moving real slow today. Obviously, I was out last night working also, and, of course, got home, had to do some stuff here at the house, got to bed late, and then Mother Nature kept us up during the night, too. And so just moving slow here this morning. So.
Yeah, that was quite a storm last night. It was really loud, although the rain was light. And then this morning we got hit with a ton of rain. So,
exactly.
Sheriff, over the weekend, a handful of, I guess it was 3 people rescued, and then there was possibly another incident that Andrew was mentioning as well. So overall, can you recap the weekend? Was it busier than normal? Was it average? And then can you talk about the incidents where life-saving measures had to be used?
Sure. Speaking in general, on the water, it was very busy. It was our busiest weekend probably that we've seen in, a year and a half because obviously the pandemic. Not unusual for a 4th of July at our hotspots. Obviously the Sheriff's Office, we patrol about 6 different waterways in Oneida County. Our busiest is Sylvan Beach. That's where we spend a vast majority of our time and resources because that's obviously where most people go. So overall, it was a very busy weekend, a lot of boats on the water. A few mishaps, obviously the 2 will focus on, but a lot of boat traffic. Most people were compliant with everything. And again, our purpose out there is to try to keep everybody safe. But things were good through until we got the 4th of July. And the actual 4th of July is when we had 2 incidents, both of which, in the end turned out good, and both which, could have had opposite results. But first was on the 4th of July, about 6:30 at night. Got a report that there were 3 people in the water on the barge canal, the break wall, right just outside of Sylvan Beach. Upon our arrival, our deputies on the boats found 2 people clinging to the rock break wall. They were also trying to hold on to a very small canoe. We also learned there was a 3rd person that was in the water with them just prior to that, but he was rescued by a Good Samaritan going by. Our deputies were able to get a throwable flotation device to the 2 individuals still in the water. They were able to pull them to safety onto our police boat. And then, obviously, all 3 were brought back to the shore, checked and released by EMS personnel. These 3 were ticketed. And, again, we don't try to make that a top priority, obviously. But when, 3 people get into a very small vessel, on a rough body of water. And when I say rough, I mean the lake, the weather was great, but with so much boat traffic in a small confined area where it's relatively shallow, you have some pretty big waves. So obviously they were on a very small boat, no personal flotation devices with them, either in the boat or on their person. Due to the water conditions, they quickly overturned, and it's a lucky thing that they all didn't drown. So that in the end turned out okay, but again, all 3 parties were issued summonses for not having personal flotation devices or life jackets, and they have to return to Sylvan Beach Court on a later date.
And they were,
yeah,
they were all adults, right?
That is correct. They were all in their 20s, between 23 and 27. So everybody knows better, and just like I said, just doing something that all safety indicators say you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, I think there's. especially people who are familiar with the water, or their family has a boat, or they have a jet ski or something like that. This is just my opinion. They tend to follow the required safety protocols, whether it's you need a vest, how many people in a particular watercraft, what the rules are. You can't speed here, you can't have a wake here. So it almost seems like people who don't know the water think, look, come on, I'm 26 years old. Do you think I'm going to put a life vest on? I'm not a little kid.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of times a tragic situation happens because they don't understand how powerful the water is. I'm out on a lake, I can go in a canoe. And as the sheriff, you described those, like a scenario there where you have a lot of boats out there. It's a smaller area. The waves get really high, and it didn't take them long. 3 adults in a boat, all of a sudden, all 3 are in trouble.
And I can tell you right now, even, Sheriff, I was doing a little wakeboarding and boating with family and friends over the weekend, and there was a couple of times that I had jumped in the water, and, if I didn't have, I was swimming, and you don't realize, if you're in a pool and you don't have a life jacket on and you're a good swimmer, okay, you can go stand up. You stand up, right? or you just go to the side of the pool.
Right.
When you're in a lake and you're by a boat, your boat can drift off a little bit. You can get tired very quickly. Treading water in a lake is a lot different than treading water in a pool.
It is the simplest. It's the simplest, most basic safety. It's a requirement. But I mean, for instance, I was at Enchanted Forest yesterday. You see all these 2 and 3-year-olds with the arm floaties, right?
Yeah.
But I almost think for people who don't live that beach boat lifestyle, you think, well, I'm not 3 years old. I don't need floaties. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
You need a jacket.
Yeah, exactly.
So you said all 3 were ticketed for no jacket.
Yeah, and again, we don't try to make that a priority, but like you said, I mean, I love the water. I mean, prior to having the farm here, we did a lot of boating. I've been on boats my whole life. But again, if I'm going to be on a canoe, I'm going to have a life jacket on. If I'm going to be on a 30-foot cruiser, I'm probably not going to have a life jacket on, but I'm going to know there's one nearby. So again, every scenario is different, and it's just, canoes turn over extremely easy, and especially when you overload them and you put them on a rough body of water, you're going to get in trouble real quick.
Fortunately all 3 were able to be rescued. We didn't have any fatal accidents throughout the course of the holiday weekend, did we?
No, we did not. We thought we had, we did get a call about an hour after the previous call we just talked about, a report of a possible drowning on the north shore of the lake. And again, took a few minutes for our Marine patrols to get over there. As we were en route, we learned that the victim was out of the water, was someone had pulled him onto a boat, and that CPR was in progress. A little more investigation once we got there. Basically, prior to docking their boat, these couple people jumped off to swim first. The victims again struggled to swim a little bit, so another party on the boat threw him a flotation device. He was able to pull himself back up onto the boat. The boat docked at their destination, and again he was struggling a bit in the water, and then had some type of medical event, which prompted them to call 911. And again, he was once he was on the boat and brought to a dock, he was evaluated by North Bay Fire Department. He signed off. He was fine. So again, came in as a possible drowning, but ended up being, some type of medical call. Not sure if he had cramping or whatever, but he definitely struggled in the water, went under for a short period of time. And, everything turned out well there. So again, potential tragedy there that turned out okay. No fatals in our county. One of my colleagues in Saratoga County, the sheriff's office, they had a very tragic accident this weekend where someone was killed in a boating accident. So it's definitely, it's a great pastime, and it's an awesome thing to do. But again, like we just keep saying, you gotta be safe. You gotta have all the equipment. You gotta know what you're doing. Got to know your body of water. Got to know the weather. The weather was good for boating on the 4th of July. But again, these other factors can change that in a second if you're not careful.
Yeah, the safety tips are so key, because it is a fun family get out, enjoy the weather, celebrate Independence Day, and then you have a terrible tragedy where you've lost a loved one.
So
exactly.
Sheriff, talk about briefly about your Marine Patrol unit. I know I was on Lake Delta on Sunday morning, and I saw a few of your deputies patrolling there. But talk about the numbers you have and how active that unit is on Oneida, Delta, and any other lake.
Sure. Oneida Lake, we're out there just about every day from the beginning of spring right through till the end, because obviously that's our busiest. The lake is big. It's in 4 different counties, but it is 26 miles long, 3 miles wide. It's a huge body of water. But we have the Sylvan Beach end, which is the busiest end. If you, I was up there this weekend. Actually, I was doing a bunch of things, but did spend some time on the beach this weekend. Not on the beach, but driving through. Boats were tied from one end of the beach to the other. A lot of people partying, and that's good, having a good time as long as they're safe and careful. But we typically have 2 boats on patrol on Sylvan Beach. We also have a couple jet skis that we have up there, and the jet skis come in real handy for patrolling through the beach area where all the boats are tied together, because we can obviously go into much shallower water with jet skis. So we're out there with them on the busy days. Second busiest would be Delta Lake. Again, we get up there as much as we can, especially peak time. And we also patrol when we can. And again, we have all kinds of complaints on all these bodies of water, so we try to get everywhere. But we're on Utica Lake, we're on White Lake, we have Otter Lake, we have Barge Canal, we have parts of the Mohawk River that we can take vessels on, and not to mention a lot of private small bodies of water that we don't patrol, but we occasionally get called to for rescue calls or whatever. So typically, at any given time, we could have about 5 boats floating in the water somewhere patrolling, and we always have one on the trailer ready to go for one of these smaller bodies of water. And also, they train in conjunction with our dive team. Dive team, that's a good thing, because typically when the dive team gets called out, our sheriff's office dive team, it's usually a recovery, not a rescue. So they didn't get called out this weekend. But our dive team, they're part of the Marine Division. Actually, we just brought on a couple members of the Utica Police Department who are avid divers. They joined the sheriff's office dive team. So we have a joint sheriff's office, Utica Police dive team, which is kind of neat. And again, we probably spend just as much time training as we do actually working, because again, we talk about how dangerous and how quickly things can change when you're on the water. So, again, we deal with everything from, boating complaints to, believe it or not, fireworks complaints, which literally this weekend we responded to and received. Altogether, I wouldn't be surprised if we're in the hundreds of complaints of fireworks. Again, definitely a stressor on all agencies, not to mention, all the other tragic things that happened in the county this weekend, as far as violence goes.
Yeah, and Sheriff, we appreciate the recap. I'm glad you mentioned the fireworks there at the end. We talked about a tragedy that happened in the state of Michigan, but got a lot of attention because a young 24-year-old hockey goalie got hit by a stray firework, and actually it caused internal injuries, and a pro athlete was actually killed in an accident. So we appreciate the info and the recap. I know when we talked to you Memorial Day weekend, I want to say there were 2 incidents that were somewhat suspect, where there were, boater distress calls that came in. Has that kind of ceased, or have you experienced that again, where you're getting these questionable emergency calls?
Well, I'm happy to say that we have not had anything since Memorial Day, and hopefully I don't jinx myself by saying that. But those were 2 isolated incidents. That's all we've had this summer so far in regards to that type of call.
All right. Sheriff, we appreciate it. You and your whole team over there at the Sheriff's Office trying to keep everybody safe through the holiday weekend. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, for having me, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Oneida County Sheriff Rob Maciol.